and we'll start recording, and we're doing that. Okay, so what we're going to do is, where are we here? There we go. We are going to do a basic rendering. So more communicative doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be this glorious, persuasive, fancy thing. It's enough to say and look at, material should be semi-accurate, you know, what these items are, simple shadows and things of that nature. So we're going to actually use this as our reference. Okay? Again, normally if I'm going to set up a rendering, I've got a vision in my head what I'm going to be doing. But you can see here what we'll end up doing is applying a sticker, applying various materials that have various textures, plastic. I'm going to say that's going to be a soft textured metal, radial brushed, a leather, you know, various things like that with a simple light setup. Now, what we want to start with is we're going to open up KeyShot, and I'm not going to use the direct connect so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. So you've got your SolidWorks file. We've got our library, everything sitting here. We're going to go File, and we're going to go Import, because we're not opening. Opening means that we'd be opening an existing KeyShot file. So we're going to go Import. We're going to go to the location. Again, we can import a variety of files. So we can import objects, IGES, Fusion 360, SolidWorks Assembly, SolidWorks Parts, Rhinos. All these files can be opened up. So we're going to come in and we're going to go Open. Now, what it's doing is it's saying, okay, you're going to import this, and it's going to give you a lot of options. For the most part, you can keep things simple because it's already preset. But do you want to import it into a new model set or keep it the same? So we're going to go with the default. I'll show you later on how you can do different model sets. What is the orientation? Right now we're going to do it with Y up, which is what we've got here in our SolidWorks model. So let's say we were using another software that Z was up. Then we could change that and say, hey, Z is up. Tessellation is how smooth is the surface? How smooth are the models? So, you know, if it's a circle, is it jagged or is it not jagged? Now, I forgot one thing. No, that's fine. So the lower this number, the smoother the surfaces are going to be as it brings it in and as it translates it. The higher the number, the more blocky it is. Remember that I showed you, you know, the nice circle at a high tessellation? Versus the low versus the low tessellation, which is basically an octagon. So what we're going to do is we'll turn this down. We're just going to set it to 0.02. Now, if you set it too much, your software, your computer, it's going to make it harder for it to run. So we can see right off the bat that we brought this in. It's a default background. If we look at when we first opened things up, it's got a default environment. If we recall, that environment is what's creating the lights in the studios and everything that's sitting on it. I'll teach you guys how to read and interpret and understand what those HDR images are doing so that you can control them better to adjust the lights in that. But what we can see right now is the model's in here. If we come to our scene, it shows the name, all the individual components that I can click on. If I click on this housing, it shows it over there, on there, over to there. So just kind of taking a look, making sure that everything came in the way we want it. Now, there is an approach that you really want to do. So we've got a default camera, a free camera. And that's usually what you want to consider that is, that's the camera that you're going to walk around with. Yes, Haley?
It still does not support our files. We can't import them to
Yeah, that's fine, Haley. I saw your message.
Okay, sorry.
So we can rotate this around freely, you know, and that's kind of your walking around camera. What we can do is we want to take an approach on how we do things. Sophia, if you could turn your mic off. So what we want to do is take a methodical approach. So usually a lot of times is the first thing you want to do is to set up what your camera is going to be. What is that camera position going to be? How do you want to view it? Because what you're going to do then is move your lights around your object. Because if we say this is the view, you know, we don't want to move all of our lights and then say, well, that's the camera view I want, because now we're not going to get the same lighting. So you want to start with and say, okay, I want to have this kind of camera view. And we're just going to jump back and forth here. And we're going to say it's a simple 3/4 view, almost isometric. We want to be able to see a little bit of what's up at the top. We want to see the sides, and we want to see the front. So maybe we do that. Because again, this is a communicative rendering that we're doing. So we can see all the features here. We can see all the features here. We can see the features here. What we want to do next is, again, we've got our camera fixed. So we're going to say, let's create the new camera. We're going to call it front 3/4. And then we want to lock it. And the reason, hold on one second. Why is it not locking? There we go. The reason we want to lock it is because we don't want to get all of our lights set up and everything and then accidentally go, oh shoot, I don't have that camera view anymore. Especially if someone's already approved that camera view. Then you've got to go back and try to match it. Or we lock this camera view, we never unlock it, because I might do this rendering and the client might come back and say, oh, that's awesome, can we change this? Well, if I didn't lock that camera view, I got to change something, but then I've got to try to match that camera view back up perfectly. You will forget to lock this a lot. I do it all the time. But then we can go back to our free camera and move things around. So the next, what we want to do is say, okay, what's our background going to be like? So I'm going to come in and I'm going to create my environment and I'm going to say, I want it to be a colored background. So we've got it white. Now, we may change that, we may not, but you can see automatically up at the top how the environment affects the way things look. You can see here, we can clearly see this defined edge. because we've got a gray background, and it is lightest light against darkest dark, and it's not washed out. But if I come back and say, okay, I'm going to make this environment, I want a plain white background, now you can see things get washed out. That's going to change when we do our materials, but I'm going to start assigning my materials next, but now I have the environment that I want it to be in. Part of the reason I want to assign my materials next is because I don't want to get this all lit up the way I want it and then find out, oh, it doesn't light the materials properly. So what I do is I go through and I just start dragging in and creating the materials the way that we want it. And what I do is I'll get them all in there. And again, it's building it, defining it, and then evaluating it. Because we're going to put them in, and then I fine tune them and I tweak them as a whole. Now, one of the things we want to do is, as an FYI, you want to try to take a methodical approach, especially when you're learning. Because if you get things in and you say, well, I don't like how this lighting is. You know, I don't like where this is. If I try to change too many things at once, I don't know what actually worked or didn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly say my shading's not right because I want this shading to the back. We don't need HBO. I want my shading coming off of here, which means, come on, which means I need the light going that direction. If we come in and we go camera, and I'm just going to go standard top view. What that means is that my light source right now is coming from the back and going across there. So same as if I was to draw if that is my object, my light source is coming from the rear and pointing downwards. And it's probably at about noon. So we're going to jump back and we're going to go to our environment, because right now our environment is the only thing lighting up our studio. So the whitest white is what's creating the lights. So last week we talked about, okay, hey, we can control this a little bit. And if we just go to the settings, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to say, well, let's rotate it. So right now, if I want to figure out where this is in relationship to this is my light source. It's up off the top and it goes here. So this part here is probably way back over here. So I'm going to rotate it. And you can see as I rotate it, my shadow is now over in this area. Was everybody able to see that? Okay. To answer Nicholas's question, assets. So yeah, define plants, fluids, and things like that. You can do water, you can do splashing, you can, download plants, you can put plants in. Solid Keyshot I mean, these are all KeyShot renderings. Now, you might have to buy the product, or buy the plants, or find the plants, or model the plants, but it's all there. It's not, KeyShot is not like Blender in the sense that you can model it and render it within there. Okay, so we've now got our basic light setup. We've got our various items. And what we're going to do now is say, okay, oops, that's not the one I want. First thing we're going to do is, it looks like it's a stainless steel. I'm looking at it, I'm going to say it's a satin finish. And some of this is because I just know. I know materials already, that's why I'm kind of looking at it. I'm going to come in, I'm going to start, and I'm going to go to my metal. We're going to go straight down to steel. And there's a variety of stainless steels. There's brushed, stainless, rough, smooth, polished, you know, fine brush, stainless steel, woven, you know, and we can put them on there and look at them. Now, I'm just going to drag one on there to show you what it is. And then we may say, ooh, that's not what we want. So we're going to come back to our scene. And there's a couple different ways. If I take just any one and I drag it, it views this as a full model. Versus individual parts. It's trying to add it to all the bodies. So it's trying to add it here at the top level. So what we need to do is select the part and assign it over here. Now, we can come in and see that what we did is add a stainless steel brushed fine one, which is, you know, great. Not what we wanted. What we want is a stainless steel that has a satin-like feel, which means that it's a little bit sandblasted or sandpapered. So we can see now, out of our library, we took it, we dragged it into our studio or our scene, and we now have two shaders. This shader is the default shader that everything got assigned to. And you can see I didn't bring it in at a high enough resolution because things are a little jaggedy there, but we'll figure that out later. So we're going to say that one's not what we want. Now, what we can do is go through and try a variety of ones. So we could say, oh, stainless steel rough. And it's, now that that part is assigned to something, if I drag over it, it automatically assigns it to that part because it's got a separate shader assigned. So now we can say, is that what we want? And what we're going to do is look at it and just go in and roughly kind of take a look and say, okay, that looks good for what we want. Maybe we want to, you know, turn down the roughness, which then gets us a fully chromed polish piece. And this is where really what I like to do is if I'm trying to get something to be realistic, I'm looking at more than just what's going on. I want to see like there's a bit of a reflection there. That's shadow, that's reflection, but I can't see it crisp and it's a little bit blurry, you know, so we've got a little bit of a dark spot there and a light spot, you know. what we can do is say, that's good for now. Now, what you might want to do is go in and you could name it. You could call it stainless steel wrap. And the reason I'm saying that is because you may have multiple stainless steels in here, and you want to be able to find it and figure it out easily enough. So let's go, and we're going to just do another stainless steel, and this one is a radial brushed. And we will assign it to here. Oh, maybe not to there. And you can see what's happening is it's got a radial spin to it. Now, that's probably not what we're looking for. That might be a little bit more what we want. And what we're going to do, though, is we're going to play with it, because all we want is one of those centered. So we can come back and then go, okay, well, let's try to get this right. We're going to open it up. And this might not be what I want because there's just way too much going on. Yeah, I'm not going to use this one because I'm not going to be able to move that around like I want it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to toss on a polished chrome there for now. Now, it's great to start with the materials that you want. A lot of times you'd be amazed that even if it's going to be glass, you'll see a lot of professional designers, they start with plastic and modify it from there. So, but let us, I need to show something here quickly. Where is, I want to download that. Okay. I just want to show you guys something while we do this. Okay, there we go. And we'll bring that out to there. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a plastic. And we're going to start with shiny. We'll select the two front faces, and we're going to select everything that we think is going to be the plastic. We'll assign it. Now, if I have the plastic here, you can see here where I've got hard shiny plastic. We'll rename that, call it housing. If I come back and I take the hard shiny white plastic here, I now have another hard shiny white plastic. I want to, if the material is going to be the same, I want to make sure that I assign that material to all the same parts. The reason for that is if I come in now and say, okay, well, let me change the color. Well, now I've got to go down and change this color. So we want to make sure it's all linked. What we can do is come back and say, oh, this and this are supposed to be the same. So I'm going to right click it and link them. Now, that controls all of it. Okay, what I was going to show you was, if we drag this over here, I can come in, and if I want to specify a color, I can do RGB, I can do CYMK, so if I've got a Pantone color or something. But if I've got something on the screen, I can do the eyedropper. And the eyedropper allows me to go off of the screen and go to the different areas. Now, obviously, that was not what we want, because we want more of a milky, a creamy white. Okay. Now, something we want to look at too while we're doing this is we've got reflection and refraction and roughness. How shiny is that plastic? So if this is why we always have reference materials or reference images. That's going to help us to determine how shiny, how realistic. Obviously, you know, if I hold this up, I've got two different types of plastic, two different types of highlights between the red and the black. If I'm going for realism, I want to match what's properly happening. So with this, you know, we've got our object, and we can kind of see off of those corners what's hitting, and that's the highlight what we're getting. This is obviously, it's done in a white room or a white studio, so you're not getting reflectivity of things in that room. So it's just highlights. And this is where, you know, when we talk about it, and I say how important radiuses are, because without a radius in here, we're going to get no highlight whatsoever. So I'm going to come back, and you can see by turning it up, I'm starting to get that highlight to hit there now. So again, let's go back. So I missed this part. This part is to be the white. So what I can do is take this. Again, I can't just drag it because it's going to want to override everything. What's that say? Hold shift to add as a sub-material. I never know what that means. So again, I'm going to go to my scene. We'll select that box. And we're going to drag housing on it. Now, something that I want to show you that we can do. Okay, right in, I'll show you later. Okay, so next we want to add our button in here. And if I want, theoretically, I could just grab this same one and just keep tossing on anything and then come over here and edit it. But I might as well start with what we've got. So we're just going to start there. And if you don't have too many varying materials, maybe you don't name them, maybe you do. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve. So again, we're starting with the plastic. And you can see here, if we look at this, here's our options. It's telling us what it is. So we could call this that material. Because it's going to get hard, we're going to change the color. And it's going to be, all of a sudden, it's not going to be a hard, shiny plastic blue. It's going to be a different color. So we can call this, we'll just call this connector tabs. Okay. Now, if we want to keep this, we can save this to the library. We're going to come in and we could walk through and say, okay, well, hold on a second here. You know what? Maybe I don't want it to be plastic. I want it to be painted metal. Let me just zoom in here. And you can see our controls change. We can come in and say, well, let's make it translucent. Let's make it glass. So we can change that material in here as we're going if we want to adjust it. So let us go back to plastic. And this is something that I would suggest you guys kind of like, don't be afraid to play. It's like in SolidWorks. When you see a menu, click on all the other buttons just to see what they do. That's how you're going to learn. So we're going to go with plastic. We're going to adjust the color. I think it was something like this. Now, right now, we got really reflective. For this, let's just say we're going to add just a tad. Now, one of the other things that we can do, and we're not going to get into multi-graphs, but multi-material. So let's say I don't know if I want this to be plastic brown. Maybe I'm going to want it to be something else. I can come in and go make this a multi-material. So right now I've got connector tabs, and that's the name of this one. Maybe I'm going to make it ash wood. And I'm just going to drag and drop that into here. So what I can now do is bounce back and forth. So we're going to come over to our rivets next. Oh, so this is something, so you know, I don't know if I just don't know how not to do it. But if I want to, so you see here, I click on here. Well, even though I clicked on it, it's not dragging. I have to go back to my scene and click on it there in order to get it to recognize. So for this, we're just going to go back to our metal. We'll just make them chrome. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll run through and assign the materials really quickly. And then go back and start editing them. and adjusting the materials in that. Now, let me just take a look at something here. So did anybody else realize? I just realized now that that's raised and rounded. Did anybody else catch that? Okay, nice. Well, then when I grade yours, you'll kind of get bonus marks if you did it in your model. So here though, this isn't going to be a plastic. This is a rubber. The reason we know it's a rubber is, well, a couple things. The reason we know it's a rubber is, one, if it was plastic, why would that part not be plastic if that's what a record player sits on? Anyone? No one know? So material serves a function. So for something, for scratching, yeah, but you would also want, if that's a record that's sitting on there, you want something that's going to grip that record so that it's not just spinning. As it spins, it wants something to have stable. So, you know, it's kind of like this, has a bit of a rubber to it, even though it's hard, so it doesn't just slide across my desk. So for that one, you know, we're going to come in and we should have rubber. So see how my chrome polished is not shiny? Why do we think that is?
The lights aren't hitting it right.
Exactly. Actually, the lights are hitting it perfect, but all we have is gray. So it's only going to reflect what is in there. So that's where, you know, some people struggle getting chrome. Chrome, it's all about what it's reflecting in the environment. There's whole tutorials on how to do chrome in a white environment to get that kind of black. Because if I come in here, well, now all of a sudden the chrome is perfect. Okay, so what we can also do, I don't know why I can never get this. Let us go. I should be able to get leather. So I don't think I have leather, so I am just going to quickly pull up my cloud library. And we'll just see if we can find anything that's going to work for now. So I'm just going to download that. That ends up showing up in my download folder, which is just completely disorganized right now. I didn't pick, there it is. So we're just going to select this. And we're just going to do some leather now. One of the things, you can see how when you apply material, it kind of just wraps around everything. Later on, we're going to show how would we get this with a separate body. There's actually multiple ways of doing it, but we have to add different surfaces. We have to add different materials and do things of that nature and play with it a little bit. As a quick example, what I can show you is if I take this part, I want to apply and just get that kind of rough texture to this face here, but I don't want to get it to everything else. That means I'm going to need a different material. But I also have to apply it just to that face. Well, this is, even though in SolidWorks, you know, these are multiple faces, KeyShot views this as one object. But I can come in and I can edit it. Now I could either in SolidWorks come in and make this a separate surface so that when I bring it into KeyShot, it comes in as a separate surface. Or in KeyShot, I can select the whole thing and I can use various tools to split and separate objects. So I'm going to come in. Oops. Yes, Nicholas.
Is this kind of also how you would render like end grain on a piece of wood?
Yep. Exactly. You would need to.
Okay,
you need
gotcha.
to separate it.
Okay.
And apply it just to that.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. You're already a step ahead. Come on. Bear with me, because I want to show this. Oh, I hate when I do that. So this can be tedious. That's why sometimes it's better to do it in the modeling tool. So now you'll see that one part has a variety of things. So I can come in. Oh shoot, it did that, didn't it? That's not what I wanted it to do. Okay, anyways, I'll still show this. I can get really fancy with some of the stuff in here. And what we're going to do, there we go. Bear with me while I just group all this as one. So what we can do is I'm going to apply leather to that again, but I'm going to apply a different one. So you can see I've got two leathers here. Well, I want to make sure I get the right one, because I'm going to call this leather brown inside. And downstream, we can get a lot of stuff going on. and we'll eventually show you guys everything. But I'm going to come in here, and here I can use what's called my material graph. It's a different type of window, and it's great. It has all the same information here, it's just laid out differently. But there's different things I can add. So in here, where we want to add that bump and that texture, I'm going to come in, and there's a variety of tools. I'm going to go textures. Oops. I'm going to go geometry, and I'm going to say I want to add some fuzz. And that fuzz is going to go onto the geometry. I can then come in let me just adjust. And you can see it starts adding little NURBS. Now, those are really, really poor looking NURBS. But if I turn the radiuses way down and I turn the density way up, I can start adjusting them. And you can start playing. Now that's, I mean, that's not very good looking, but that would be the start of getting those fuzzies or whatever you want to call them in there, along with some of the textures, to start getting that extra little bit in there. So that's how you start getting those things modeled in. Now, you guys aren't going to have to worry about that for now. I just wanted to kind of show you what will go, that we'll eventually get to. So we can come back and go to our camera, and we can look at it and say, okay, it's getting there. You know, we're kind of getting what we want. A lot of times, you know, hey, it might be I do a high-end rendering just to see the quality of it, or sometimes if I need approval or if I want the client, hey, this is where we're going, are you kind of liking things? It's about 80-20, meaning it's about 80% done, 20% in the details. I can come up here and just do a screenshot, and then go to my folder and pull up the screenshot. And that's instantaneous. Yes, Nicholas. Did you still have a question, Nicholas, or did you just happen to have?
Oh no, I accidentally just left my hand up.
Okay,
earlier.
okay. So if we're looking at this right now, what do you guys think in comparison to what we've got going here? What would you start doing? Because we've kind of got stuff roughed in.
Maybe adding a background at this point, since everything seems kind of colored correctly.
Okay. Do we want, but remember, we're matching this environment. So we're not going to add a background. But is our background?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say also the little, I guess, stamping of the numbers on the dial on top you need yet.
Okay, so we need the graphics. The background isn't quite right. It's a little bit white. This gets washed out. Someone said that the top strap seems a little stiff. It does. Very, very stiff. We're not going to worry about that too much right now. But, you know, okay, great. So we've got everything blocked in. Let's adjust colors in that. Yep, main body should be a little bit more creamish. It's a little too white. I'm horrible with getting the right color too. But you can see by changing that color and getting that color more accurate, all of a sudden this becomes considerably more readable. Now, is that the right creamish? I don't know. I was trying to download that. I thought you used to be able to just click and download. I don't remember how to download that. And it's not letting me grab that. Let me see. It'll let me grab that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so that's a lot better. So I was way off because it's more of a yellowish. But that looks better. The leather isn't quite the right color, so we'll want to play with that. That's more of a red.